Well, it's Thursday the 15th of May now. I've been back from Scotland for 2 days and I thought it might be quite useful to show you what I took with me. So I've got it all laid out here. I'll tell you what was useful. There were a few bits that I didn't use at all, and I'll tell you what those were, and I'll also tell you whether there are things that I wish I'd bought. So first of all, rucksack. It's the good old Osprey, and it's a, what is it, 45 litre. I can't remember the actual name of it. Probably got it somewhere here. This was certainly big enough. I've got a 70 litre rucksack, which is appreciably heavier, and I'm pleased that it take that. I could fit everything I needed in here, so that was fine. The only thing that's in here at the moment is the rain cover, which I had to use a couple of times. So rucksack. My liner was one of these quite heavy duty plastic bags. I can't remember the name of them. If I do find out what the name was, I'll stick it at the bottom of the video. But I took 2 of these, one just as a standard pack liner and one to put other things in, clothes and things like that in. They're pretty heavy duty, no holes in them, and they're water resistant, keep everything nice and dry. So that was good. I also took a Tesco's carrier bag, which came in very useful lots of times for putting all sorts of things in. If I did manage to buy any food, I'd put that in there. You could put rubbish in there and stuff like that. And I did take an assortment of, that's the other big plastic bag. I took a couple of little blue plastic bags, again very useful for putting rubbish in. There were no rubbish bins around where I was, and I certainly didn't want to leave anything there, so I carried all my rubbish away with me until I could find a bin. And then a couple of other bags that I just used as and when. So tent first of all. Lanshan 2 Pro. I'll stick a photo of it in the video. I've used this tent for the last couple of years and it's been excellent. Only weighs just over 1 kilogram. Dead easy to put up, quick and easy to put up, and it served me very well. I did take the ground sheet, which is what I'm sitting on at the moment. I was pleased I did, because there were some lumpy, bumpy places where I set up. So that was good. So tent, walking poles, black diamond walking poles. Again, really useful. First of all, to hold the tent up, and secondly for some of the ascents going up the Corrier Pass. These were dead useful, and also just to sort of steady yourself on rocky terrain and stuff like that. So a couple of those. I've got 2 of those that I use to modify my Lanshan. At the foot end and the head end, I just put these in and stretch the guy rope over them, which keeps the foot and the head end from flapping in my face, and helps it a little bit in terms of condensation. I got condensation a couple of nights. One night it was pretty bad and dripping on me when I woke up, but most of the time it was pretty decent weather. I was able to pitch the tent quite high, and it was nice and dry in the mornings. Spare guy rope, which I always take with me just in case. I've got a couple of these guy ropes attached to the Lanshan for windy weather. Had to use them once, but I've also got another one, a spare just in case. And pegs. I think I've got about 10 pegs here. It's thin. I don't know whether they're titanium or whatever, but they're very lightweight. I always carry a couple of extra pegs just in case. So that was the tent. Sleeping system, my Thermarest Neo Air, which is excellent. I've had that for a year and a half now. That's all I need. I never sleep very well in a tent, but this gives me the best possible chance of sleeping decently. A Sea to Summit Aeros pillow, which again is very lightweight, things like that, very quick and easy to blow up. That was very useful. I tucked that into the hood of my sleeping bag and used that. So pillow. I used the Rab Silk, the Rab Silk Ascent sleeping bag liner, and again that was useful. Just keeps the sleeping bag a little bit cleaner, and it's just another small added layer for warmth. First couple of nights were pretty cold. I was scraping frost off the tent at one point, so I was pleased I had that. The sleeping bag, that's my Rab Ascent 500. It's comfortable down to 6 degrees. I find I've used it in sort of -1, -2, and provided you're happy to put a puffy jacket on and things like that and sleep in your clothes, it's fine. Probably that's the biggest item that I had to pack, so I will put that at the bottom of my pack. This was a last minute purchase, my Alp Kit Hunker bivy bag, and I was very pleased I bought this. I did buy it just in case I found myself in the middle of nowhere and I had a problem with a tent or something like that. I knew I could always use this. It's breathable and waterproof, but I did actually put it over my sleeping bag every night, and it stopped the condensation from dripping on the sleeping bag. I always had a little bit of condensation round where I was breathing and things like that. But again, it also worked as an added bit of warmth, so I was very pleased with that. That was only about 55 quid, and I'd heartily recommend it. A good piece of kit, that. Okay, so that's the sleeping system. Let's look at clothes next. Montane over trousers. I always take these with me, but I very rarely use them. I could only really see myself using them on torrential rain. Normally the trousers, which I'll show you in a minute, dry very quickly. So I think I've worn these twice, once on the coast to coast, once on the Cumbria Way, but I didn't have to wear them at all in Scotland. They don't really weigh much at all. I don't find them particularly effective because your legs just get hot and sweaty anyway, but I do take it with me just in case. And my Rab Downpour Eco. It's not particularly warm, but actually it works well as a layering system. I've got a big heavy duty Rab coat for in the winter time, but this was fine. I only had to wear this a couple of times. I was really lucky with the weather. Had a couple of showers. That was fine. And again, this is pretty lightweight and works well. My Rab Electron Pro puffy jacket. The cross, I punctured this. Got a hole in it here which I'll need to do something about. I've had this for a couple of years. It's quite expensive, but it's worth its weight in gold. A couple of times when I was really cold, I put this on and it warmed me up very quickly. One night I wore it in my sleeping bag, and it kept me nice and warm. So I've also got a Decathlon 4-class one of these, but it hasn't got a hood. Pretty good, but I still think the Rab one is better, but it's appreciably more expensive. I did take this Berghaus top, which again was very useful. Useful in the evenings, particularly when I'm staying at a pub. You can just put it over your t-shirt and you look very slightly smarter and slightly less sweaty and smelly. But it was also quite good as a windproof jacket. Just a couple of times when you're walking and it was 6 o'clock in the evening, I just put this on to feel a little bit warmer, so that was good. For sleeping, merino long johns. Good thing about these is they're warm. The other thing is when you haven't washed properly for a couple of days, your legs get a bit sweaty and horrible. And they stop your legs from sweating in the sleeping bag. And my very bright merino top. I used to wear this for walking, but I bought it in a sale. But it's got, this is inside out, it's got animal written on it. And, I don't think that's quite me, but it works well in the tent. For wearing every day, my Montaigne walking trousers, can't remember what these are, they're about 90 quid, but they're brilliant, really good. They keep me warm, but then again I don't really get cold legs when I'm walking, even in winter. If they get wet, they dry very quickly. They've got zips, so you can easily put them over boots. They've got ventilation in them as well. Lots of zip pockets and stuff like that. I found them great. So I would normally wear those, pair of icebreaker undies, and either a long sleeve merino top. This is a Phone one, F-O-H-N. That's quite nice and comfortable, better on cooler days. I also have a Decathlon merino short sleeve top, so I sort of interchange those and wash them whenever necessary. I took one other merino top which I didn't really need, but it was quite nice to actually change into, particularly after I'd been wild camping for 5 days. Probably could have done without that and cut the weight down a little bit, but I think it was worth it. And I also took a running top, again, that's inside out, it's a half marathon running top. Again, I didn't need that strictly, but it was quite nice to have something that didn't stink when I was checking into a hotel or something like that. A buff, always useful. Use it when walking to keep a little bit warmer. Use it in the sleeping bag to pull up over your face if it's cold, or almost as a hat. Keep your ears warm. I took 2 more pairs of icebreaker undies. I probably could have cut that down to 1, but they don't really weigh that much. If I'd stripped my clothing down to bare minimum, I probably could have saved about half a kilo, but I thought it was probably worth carrying that extra half kilo for that. 3 pairs of socks. Before I went away, I splashed out and bought Darn Tough socks, and these were really good. I normally wear Bridgedales, and they're starting to get a little bit old, but I was very pleased with these. They kept my feet warm, they kept my feet dry. I only had 1 blister in the whole of the 2 weeks, and that was on day 2. That's probably because my feet weren't really used to walking, but I recommend these. Quite expensive, but really good. A little Rab beanie hat that I wore when it got cold and wore in the night. Just pull it down over your ears. And I did take this hat, which I always take with me, seen much better days. It's a Decathlon hat, but really useful for just keeping the sun off you and things like that. I took some very thin Decathlon, I think these are Carrymore gloves, which again I wore a couple of times when it was cold. Unfortunately, I must have dropped one somewhere. I didn't spot that, but I'm down to just the 1 now. And I also bought these, I think they're cycling gloves, and I bought them in Lidl, something like that, about 3 quid or something like that. And they've got slight gel bits in ponds. So if you're doing a lot of using your walking poles a lot, they're quite good, and they added a little layer of warmth and stuff like that. What else? My Petzl head torch. Didn't really use this much at all because it was light up until about 10:30, and from about 5:30 in the morning. So I only use this if I have to get up out of the tent in the middle of the night and stuff like that. Obviously, I wouldn't go without one of these just in case you find yourself needing it, but that was more than enough. I did take a midge head net, which weighs next to nothing, some smidge, and a midge jacket, which covers the whole of your upper body, including your arms. We've had quite a warm spring, and I was a bit worried that the midges would be out early. In actual fact, in the last couple of days, they were really starting to come out. But I did post these home from Killen, just because I didn't really need them. I figured it's better to take them and not use them than not have them and absolutely need them. But I didn't use those. I took my Garmin InReach Mini 2. If I was doing West Highland Way, I probably wouldn't bother with something like this. But for 5 days, I was in the middle of nowhere. There were people around, but there were many times when I couldn't get a mobile signal. It was a bit strange because sometimes right out in the middle of nowhere I'd have a really good signal, better than I've got at home, but just other times I wouldn't have a signal, and I used this just to contact home and just send messages and say I was okay. I don't quite know how the subscription works. I cut it down to something like £5 a month, and that seemed to be fine for just sending a few messages. But I wouldn't really wear this without something like that. Better safe than sorry. I took these. I used to use the SIS hydration tablets, but they're about £5, and these from Home Bargains are £1.99, and they seem to do exactly the same job. So I took 20 of these, just in a little tube, and at the end of the day, I'd always have one of these in a drink. And sometimes, if I was really exerting myself, I'd have one at lunchtime as well. And they just keep you hydrated, and they've got electrolytes and magnesium in them, so I think they're really worth their money. Little pack of playing cards. Top tip: this I got this in a pack of crackers about 3 years ago, and I take it with me every time I go walking. Obviously, one of the things is you can get a little bit bored in the tent, and I don't really want to just sit there and watch stuff on my phone. So I just take these. They weigh hardly anything at all, and you can have patience and whatever with them. Some hand sanitizer and some suntan lotion. Very pleased I took both. The hand sanitizer, very useful when you go for a wee or anything like that, just get your hands clean. And the sun cream, we've had absolutely fantastic weather for the last 2 weeks, and if I hadn't had the sun cream, I think I would have burned quite bad. Took 3 pens with me, just bits and bobs. Water filtration system. I've got a soya squeeze mini and a Knock bag, and I also took with me the straw that comes with the Knock bag or the soya squeeze mini, I can't remember. I didn't use that, and I did take some water purifying tablets. I always take these just in case. I don't think I've ever had to use them. The Knock bag works really well. The soya squeeze mini was fine, but it did take some time, so it would take a couple of minutes to fill up a bottle with filtered water, which is not too bad really, but it's a little bit of a slow flow rate, and that probably need to back flush that as well and clean it all out. Cooking. I took a 500 millilitre titanium pot, which was that. I also took this smaller one, 375 millilitre one. I think I'd probably take that again actually. It weighs next to nothing, but there were times when I was having my porridge in here and then it makes it a bit messy, so you can just boil water for a coffee or something in that. Obviously you can boil water first and then have your porridge, but I was never that organised. I bought a couple of gas canisters when I was in Inverness. In actual fact, I bought one, and someone had left one around the camping shop and they gave that to me. So I used probably about 1 and a bit camping gas canisters, the small ones. Obviously I couldn't take them back on the plane with me, but I put the camping gas canister in there, and that goes in there quite nicely. A last minute purchase, I got a Soto Windmaster. Tried it out just before I left. Really good, about 55 quid, but very stable, worked well in high winds as long as you screwed it on properly. And it's got a little piezo igniter there. I was just a little bit worried in case with my other stoves they haven't got igniters, in case I couldn't get it to light or anything like that. So very pleased with that. I should probably sell my other stoves. Belt and braces, I did take a little BRS stove with me. Again, weighs next to nothing. 20 quid from Amazon. I didn't use it, probably wouldn't take it again, but there we are. It's the little supports that you put the Windmaster on. A lighter, allowed to take 1 lighter through on the plane. Again, didn't have to use that. Other cooking stuff. Got my Opinel knife, which needs a good clean now. Really useful. Took that with me. I took a long handled spoon and a plastic spoon. Not quite sure why I took both. I just ended up in my bag and that was fine. And a Sea to Summit collapsible cup, which needs a good wash now. That was really useful. It's so much nicer drinking out of one of these than drinking out of one of the toast things, and you don't burn your lips and everything like that. I'll talk about food in a minute. Just kept the top on with an elastic band. Maps. I did take that little guide of Great Glen Way. I didn't really need that, but I don't really like going places without a map. I took 3 OS maps that covered me for days 3 and 4, 6 and 7, 8 and 9. So when I was out in the middle of nowhere. For the days that I didn't have an OS map, I was right on the edge of a map. So I bought the map and just did paper copies. So I always had some paper copy. And I bought the Harvey's map for the Rob Roy Way. Again, didn't really use that, but they're quite nice to look at and just plan your route out. I personally don't find the Harvey's maps particularly useful. I don't like the detail on them. I prefer it on the OS maps. And I've got the OS app on my phone. I download the maps and work out where I'm going each day, and then have them on my phone, which is sort of belt and braces. I also took a compass with me, but I was gutted that I left it hanging up in a B&B, and I only remembered after walking 10 miles away. It was a good little compass as well. I always take a compass wherever I go, so I should have to buy a new compass. So I was sorry to see that compass go. Also, I took a selfie stick, which broke in killing. So I'm having to film this now with a phone propped up on a chair, which is not ideal. Selfie stick I find really useful, so I shall have to buy another one. What else? Flex tail gear pump with the various attachments and things like that. I don't strictly need this, but actually it's so much easier just plugging this into your thermarest and getting it going, and then you can walk away from it and it all blows it up, rather than huffing and puffing or using the sack that comes in to inflate it. So I quite like this. A bit of a luxury, but there we are. First aid, various blister plasters, ibuprofen, paracetamol, Imodium, a little sewing kit that I always take with me and didn't use, my tick card. I only got one tick, but that was good for getting the tick off. Earplugs just in case, didn't use those. I've got these which are pour water onto them and they become sort of wet wipes and things like that. They're not biodegradable, unfortunately, so I do use them occasionally, but they're not great. A couple of safety pins and 4 pegs. I find these really useful to do things like peg your socks onto the outside of the tent so they dry if it's decent weather and stuff like that. So that's all that. I did take a sleep mask, which again I didn't use, but again weighs next to nothing. Hygiene, I took a mirror for checking for ticks. I did take a bamboo toothbrush, but I didn't like it at all, so in Killing I bought a plastic one. Environmentally not very sound, but cleaned my teeth better. Various things for flossing your teeth. Little travel toothpaste, that was new when I started and there's still about half of it left. And some moisturiser, little nail clippers, Sea to Summit Wilderness Wash pocket soap. These were really useful actually when you wanted to wash your hands and anything like that. I did take some Sea to Summit Wilderness wipes as well, which were good, but they weighed a lot. I'm not sure I'd take them again. I did actually leave them behind in the hotel in Killen, just because I didn't really need them. And some Vaseline, Vaseline lip therapy. In the sun, my lips got a little bit chapped, so that was good. I also get stressing from the rucksack and things like that, and a bit of Vaseline really helps on it. I took a little deodorant for the days when I was staying in a hotel and stuff like that, and a travel towel. I can't remember the make of this, but it was from Ultralight Gear. That was relatively cheap, works quite well. I bought before I went a waterproof mobile case from Amazon. Not bad, but you can probably see that the fingerprint bit has got all mucky, so it wouldn't read your fingerprint when the phone was in here, which was a bit of a pain really. Again, didn't really have much rain, but I felt more comfortable knowing the fact that my phone was safe from the rain. Took a little pad, Dad's pad, which was useful for just writing various little bits in. Headphones with an adapter for my Pixel 7a. Power bank. This is an Anker 20,000 Power Core Essential 20,000. I kept my phone on extreme battery setting, which just meant that actually I was only using the OS Maps app during the day, and that meant I could squeeze 2 days out of it from a full charge. So by the time I got back to civilization after about day 8, I still had 1 charge left in this, and that worked quite well. This little pack see lots of people with these on bags, but as far as I'm aware, you can't buy them anymore. This just clips onto the rucksack and you can have it around your chest or around your waist. Useful for putting things like phone in and bits and bobs and stuff like that, or little refreshments and things. But a bit of a hassle because you have to unclip it every time you want to take your rucksack off. Clip-on sunglasses, use those a few times. 2 water bottles. Got these from Decathlon. I find these really good. About 0.8 of a litre, I think. There were a few stretches where there wasn't an awful lot of water, but having 2 meant that I could always filter water, and I had water to drink when I got to camp and also water to cook with, particularly if I was camping at somewhere that wasn't particularly close to a supply of water. My poo trowel, took that, some toilet roll, and food. Obviously I ate most of my food. I put it in a dry bag here. The one that I brought back with me was a fire pot meal. I used dehydrated meals for 5 nights. One of them, vegetarian kurma, I'm vegetarian, was pretty good. Some of them were horrible. There was an apple crumble I used, which was semolina and applesauce. Nothing at all like an apple crumble. And some coffee, no, some chocolate and some coffee, a couple of teas. I'll put some pictures of the dehydrated meals I used in the video in a minute. And last but by no means least, the charger for my Garmin watch. I think that was everything. The boots I used were Saucony Gore-Tex Power Run PB. They were good, but they lost all their trim, so you might be able to see on that, and they looked a bit wrecked by the end of it. I'd only done about 60 miles of them beforehand, but they were very comfortable. I'd definitely wear those again. And the last thing, a cut down mat that was given to me by my friend Peter. We did the coast to coast together, and that was really useful. Just sitting down on, just being comfortable, things like that. So that's everything I took with me. I think with food, it was about 14.5 kilos. Obviously got much lighter as we got through the food, a little bit heavier once I put the water on. As I say, I used almost all of it. The only things I wouldn't use or wouldn't take again were the mosquito stuff. Don't think I'd do that. Maybe cut down a couple of bits of clothing. But I think everything else I used. And I had a great trip.